Hello, thank you for joining us today for episode 3 of our Marketing Masterclass series. Today we're talking about event and social media marketing, focusing in particular on LinkedIn advertising. If you've not joined these sessions before, I'm Annabelle Bean, Digital Marketing Manager for MBS, and I'll be your host. Before we jump in, if you're new to the series, here's what you've missed before. So episode 1, we covered audiences, profiling, and customer and user experience. And episode 2 is all about content marketing, where we demoed how to plan and execute a full strategy with loads of hints and tips to get you started. Both episodes are now on demand, so if you do get a chance to watch them, they're on our website. Before we start, here's a few housekeeping points. The webinar will last around 45 minutes to an hour, and we will try to keep it under the hour. Microphones are switched off, but we'd love to hear from you, so just drop any questions in the chat. And at the end of the session, we'll send you a recording of the session with an exclusive toolkit with all the highlights, tips, and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. Let's welcome our speakers. So first up, we've got Kat Duhaut from BeaconHouse Events. Kat's got over 18 years experience across the UK and Europe on events of all sizes and budgets and types. She's worked with us for the last 5 years on our annual conference, the Construction Leaders Summit, the next of which is coming up in September. So yeah, we're really busy organising that at the moment. And next up after her, we've got Sam Yielder from Squidgy, and that's a marketing agency based here in Newcastle. Sam's got over 10 years experience helping B2B clients with their paid strategies, particularly on LinkedIn. And Sam works really closely with us, so his advice is tried and tested by us. And finally, you've met me already, and as Digital Marketing Manager, I've been with MBS for 6 years now, leading on digital strategy and content, and I'll be your host for today. So with all our housekeeping done, I'm going to hand over straight over to you, Kat.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, Annabelle. Just to say hello, everyone. My name is Kat Duhaut. I'm a co-founder of BeaconHouse Events. I've been an event delivery professional now for over 18 years. Been working closely with clients across the UK and beyond to drive positive, lasting impact and help connect more effectively with their audiences. So BeaconHouse Events is a company that we co-founded in 2014. It was myself and Sarah Thackeray. We are to date a small team of 8. We're based in Newcastle upon Tyne, and we operate across the UK and since 2025, I can officially say Europe. We operate as event delivery partners for a range of different event types, and that includes conferences, exhibitions, award ceremonies, celebrations, team engagement events, virtual events, hybrid events, outdoor events, and festivals. I'm going to move on to the next slide now and talk a little bit about the different types of event types that we do as well. So our client base is very varied. We operate across a huge range of clients, and we've been working with MBS since 2020 on various events, in person, hybrid, and virtual, thanks to COVID. And our services range depending on the client demand as well. So we do everything from event creation and design, the financial management of events, big now on event sustainability consultancy. We do speaker sourcing and management, venue liaison, general administration, and honestly, everything in between. So today, I'm going to talk about event marketing and why even in our hyper digital world, events remain one of the most powerful tools for building trust and driving results. It comes with a caveat that I don't call myself a marketing pro. So sorry about that if I gave the illusion I was. But I do know a lot about supercharging your impact through events before, during, and after the occasion. So we'll start there, and I'll answer any specific questions that you might have about your events or attending events afterwards. So we'll start with audiences themselves. Audiences are overwhelmed. You'll know this from being audience members yourselves, but you're busy. They're bombarded. They've got options, very many options. They've got information overload. So events remain one of the most powerful trust building tools that you have. They give you that true moment of human interaction. It's a handshake. You can have a person-to-person demonstration. It's a face-to-face answer to a pressing challenge that one of your market or attendees might have. We're in a noisy digital first world, but face-to-face engagement still converts people. And that's why 80% of trade show attendees have purchasing power, because events help them move from like that kind of moment of awareness to action. The challenge for those investing in events we find is that they have to show up for that market, and it's not with a sales pitch, but it's with true value. So we're going to talk a bit today about how your brand needs to show up with value and visibility. So this is about making your presence unforgettable, and I fully appreciate that not everyone has an elite pedigree crufts champion as cute as the iconic Dulux Old English Sheepdog to bring to their events. But when Dulux brought Molly to the MBS Construction Leaders Summit last year, it was the kind of positive distraction that got people talking, and luckily for them, got a queue forming at their exhibition stand as well. So much with having that dog there, it really helped Dulux make their presence unforgettable, certainly stand out from the rest of the exhibitors at that event as well. So that's what we would always encourage an exhibitor at a trade show to do, to think outside of that kind of typical trade show pitch deck, represent your brand in a way that aligns to your values, that speaks to your market. Good event organizers, I would say this, but they'll ask you on how they can tailor the package, your sponsorship deal, anything that you've committed to in regards to the event to offer better aligned value. So as somebody who's investing in that event, I'd encourage you to consider things like sponsoring a session. So for example, aligning yourself with a big name speaker, or shaking up the whole death by presentation, and avoiding a sales pitch, but get your brand on the slides. I'd consider an option such as engaging activities. So do something on your stand to encourage interaction. Go from the original icebreaker to meaningful connections. Brand significant selfie props. So on the slide, you'll see a few different examples of things that we've done at exhibitions before, and a brand significant selfie prop is a good way to bring people to your stand, to get them to stand in front of your brand, take a selfie, share it on their socials, so you do get additional profile through that. Something else we offer would be magic moments. So these are things that we would offer on an exhibition stand that'll stand out, create a memory, make your audience stop. So we've done everything from inflatable surf simulators, a lottery ball cyclone, pina colada bar, a recharge area, human whack-a-mole, and 3D printed luggage tags. Again, this does come with that kind of consideration to think about who your market are, like what would they be into. So for example, maybe your delegation wouldn't necessarily want to get involved with a human-sized whack-a-mole, but perhaps if they are slightly more introverted, they would prefer something like a recharge area. So that could be something really, really practical and serve a purpose. Recognizing the particulars of the event is super important. So if you're in the UK, check the weather forecast. If it looks like rain, why don't you be the exhibitor that brought the sought after branded umbrella or poncho, and you'll be the talking point for that entire event. Think of standout branding that will market, that your audience will use to market, based on the photograph again on their socials. So you can see in the bottom left-hand corner here, worked with a tech company who really used a standout inflatable brand. So this prop was in everybody's photo because everybody wanted to be next to the 10-foot milk bottle. And giveaways are always popular. They generally will bring your attendees to your stand, but more and more we're urging people to choose something that represents your brand and your values responsibly. There's a lot of pushback now for sustainable choices and useful items. So for example, no one needs another water bottle. Think quality, think value, and think about what your audience actually want. Another great way to bring people to your trade show stand would be running a competition. Now, you can do this from your stand or as part of your sponsorship deal. We would recommend pushing back to the event organizer and seeing if, as part of your deal, you can actually run a competition on stage. It's a really good way to grab the attention of the whole room, with some data collection for the cost of an iPad, for example. So if you're running a competition where everybody in the room is entered into a prize giveaway for an iPad or something like that, organizers can advertise the added value to their delegates. So it's really a win-win situation because attendees stand the chance of winning the tech and you get a really memorable moment on stage as well. Another great kind of added value piece would be running a fringe event. So you can get your market to your office or get them to some sort of product demonstration, or you can host an exclusive dinner and event or event that stands sort of aside from the usual content of that event as well. So it's a really good way to get a kind of exclusive audience to something you might be either selling or wanting to discuss with your market. So modern attendees. Today, event attendees are digital first, but they're still very much human-led. They browse online, they ask their network, they read reviews, and they compare experiences. But what closes the deal ultimately is that kind of trust and insight they get from attending an event. They'll read their posts on LinkedIn, they'll find out what other people thought, they'll share their own thoughts on there. They're attending trade shows to find out what's new. They want to engage with you in those conversations and find out how you can tailor your product or your service to their specific needs. They're joining webinars just like this. They're looking for solutions that help them to do their job better. So we'll talk a little bit now about how you can use events as a platform to meet the expectations of the modern attendee. And it comes down to the power of events. So as we've covered already, events come in all shapes and sizes. They're trade shows, exhibitions, industry-specific events, product launches, awards, conferences, in person, online. But before you commit your time or resources, we always encourage clients to make a plan and ask themselves, how can they get the most out of each event? So it's important to consider, do you have the time to effectively plan for pre-event attendance to the event itself and the post-event follow-up? Do you have the availability for the right members of your team to attend the event, for networking, hosting your exhibition stand, for example? Because it's a personal bugbear of mine when companies invest in events and then hide behind their exhibition tables and don't interact with the market. Seems like such a waste of money and resources. So it's investing that thought process beforehand to make sure you can get the true value from it. Events offer a buffet of benefits for your brand. They're not just for lead generation, they're proper brand platforms. So you need to align your presence at the event to the buyer needs. What do they want to learn or solve? It's a really important question to ask beforehand because it can help you tailor your approach. So I would suggest demonstrating your products in context. I appreciate I'm trying to cover a wide different market here, but in terms of if you are doing a product demonstration, go with a kind of a tagline that speaks to the market that's at that particular event. You could consider as well taking a kind of brand ownership and building authority by taking a speaker slot or sponsorship. Create a memorable experience and connection that outlasts the event. So for example, if you're running a competition, do it to some sort of membership or some sort of like product or service or attendance to a future event that you're running to actually keep that connection beyond just the longevity of that one event. And make sure you're always gathering that data for smarter post-show marketing as well. So find out the name of the person, what their needs were, and how you can help them beyond just that one event. So how do events help you win? Events let you demonstrate your products in action. They give you a platform to position your brand as an expert. They make your business totally memorable and the real values in the data. So as I mentioned before, in terms of like collecting the data, that's the real crux to this. So it's not just going to be a passing moment where you meet someone. This is finding out who visited, what did they ask, what did they download, and you should be able to get that from your event organizers. So based on the very registration system they use, or perhaps they've got QR codes to connect directly to that person's LinkedIn on their badge. And that's really where your post-event marketing begins. So we'll cover that a little bit in the practical tactics next. So practical tactics, first of all, it's the pre-event campaigns. Use LinkedIn to tease what's coming. Tell your market that you're actually going to be at a certain event. Create anticipation. So, for example, launch short videos or polls, such as if you're visiting the event. Ask us about the demo that we'll be running, and mention, of course, your stand number, location, where the event is. Include the ticket link if you're trying to encourage people to actually buy tickets and attend the event. Second of all, consider your lead magnets on site. So QR codes on your stand could link to specific documents, sheets, information, case studies that you want to share with your audience, or offer a useful giveaway that solves a real problem and links to your product or service. So for example, win a survey. Everyone loves a bottle of champagne, but you can do better than that. Use something that's like really specific to your product and drives the market beyond just that one stand moment. And third, it's the post-event follow-up. So don't blast everyone with the same message. Everyone will come to visit you for different reasons. So segment your contacts by their kind of interest areas. So people who are new to the market, for example, or repeat users. or people who might be veering towards another product, for example, and follow up with tailored insights to share content that reflects their interests, such as you asked about such and such. Here's our case study on it, or you're thinking about going to another supplier. You could do that, or you could stay with us and get 10% discount. Something like that just might help retain your audience. If you're invested in an event, whether that might be attending or sponsoring or exhibiting an event, make sure your market knows about it. So this is something we call the event megaphone. It's using LinkedIn to share thought leadership from your team pre and post event. So why you're attending, what you learned when you were at the event, and the post event follow up about what your takeaways were. Share images from behind the scenes. So show them what the setup looks like, talk about why your team is excited to be there, and encourage your clients and partners to tag you in their posts with a branded hashtag. It goes to show that you're all in something together. It gives ownership and pride and authority on a brand. And for doing this as well, some tools that you can use in terms of like kind of relaying that message and encouraging that event megaphone. I appreciate again that the people that I'll be speaking to in this webinar, you might have varying sizes of in-house design teams, for example. Canva is a great tool for polished or short-run visuals, and Buffer, for example, can be used for scheduling content. So if you don't have that whole team back end, those are tools that you can use pretty much off the shelf just to be able to promote your brand and work efficiently and effectively when you're trying to do that. Always remember your LinkedIn, your other social media channels. They're super important for your event amplification, but LinkedIn in particular is typically where event attendees go for professional content. It gives you a free hub to attract attention before you even arrive. So just to give you a quick example in action, just to reiterate, you don't need a huge budget, just strategy. So I'll give you a quick kind of imagined example, essentially. This is, imagine a mid-sized supplier attending a show. Before the event, they might run a LinkedIn poll. They might say, for example, what's your biggest challenge with such and such a product? At their stand, they'll have a solution wall with QR codes linking to case studies, testimonials from previous clients. And then after the event, they'll share a recap video via the data that they've collected from you, or they'll run a poll on LinkedIn or invite the contact to an expert roundtable discussion, give them a free ticket to attend a future event. And then they're going to review the results of that impact. So X number of increased leads from the previous year or X number of new partnership conversations. Then invite them to get back in touch with the event organizer to agree preferential rates for repeat sponsorship for next year. So that's a really important one. I think event organizers, although I don't want to give away all of our secrets, we really rely on people coming back and continuing that support, particularly if it's an annual event. So we want people who've enjoyed the experience to come back. So typically speaking, it's cheeky, but certainly ask to see if you can get a preferential rate for being like kind of a repeat sponsor, as it were, and you'll get year-long basically coverage for profile as being a preferred sponsor. So the quick wins, if there is such a thing, it's just a few things that you can do straight away after listening to this webinar. I would recommend mapping the key events in your sector for the next 12 months. Nobody knows your industry better than you. So look to see what's going on, look at some target markets, look at some events that you might want to attend, and plan your marketing strategy accordingly. Around that, you can create a simple content calendar that aligns with those dates. So you can start planning blog posts, you can start planning your social media schedulers as well to allow for content that links to when that event's going to happen. Start training your sales team on how to collect leads with insight if you've already invested in actually attending that event. Use your marketing budget strategically. So if you're going to sponsor, you might need to allocate a certain amount of your marketing budget or your sales budget to be able to sponsor that event. If your budget's already spent, just think about whether or not you can strategically send two very sales-driven attendees instead and how they could fit into that event. Use campaign hashtags with consistency before you actually attend, and make sure then when it's actually down to the date itself, show up in a way that reflects your brand values. Whether or not that might be sustainability, service, community, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that you've got that message in your head and you've consistently delivered it across your marketing campaign, and that whenever you're there on the day, they're actually showing up with purpose. Events are a proper opportunity to build better brand experiences. So event attendees want solutions and not sales pitches. And more often now we're running events for clients that request that even if anybody does have a moment on stage, that they cannot deliver a sales pitch. So it's about finding a clever way to do that. So if you show up as somebody who's helpful, consistent, and credible, whether that be an online event or in person, you'll earn trust more so than getting that eye roll about another typical sales pitch. But that trust will then lead to a lead. Events give you that perfect platform to offer that. And when you're pairing it with a smart social media and strategic follow-up, they become one of your most powerful marketing tools. And as I started off by saying, I'm not a marketing professional, but we do know events. That's really what I'm airing towards here, about how you can use events to be more powerful marketing tools. And I know you're going to get more context from this webinar today on how to actually build that marketing funnel as well alongside that. But I just wanted to finish off my section really by saying thanks so much. I appreciate it was a really broad overview, and that every event has its really unique nuances. But if you want a follow-up checklist, or you want to talk more about event strategy, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or drop me a message. Otherwise, hopefully, I'll see you at the Construction Leaders Summit in September. And there you can connect with me on LinkedIn via that QR code. Thanks very much.
Thanks for that, Kat. Some really good points there and loads we can use. We do have some questions that have come in, so if you don't mind, I'll keep all of them for now and we'll come to them at the end. And now I'm going to go hand straight over to you, Sam, who's going to talk about all things social.
Right, thank you, Annabelle. My name is Sam. I'm here today to talk about LinkedIn for manufacturers and how we can essentially build a full funnel strategy, which is essential for long-term success. So just a little bit about me, first and foremost. My name is Sam. I am a senior paid media manager here at Squidgy, where I've spent the last 3 years working on a wide range of clients, everyone from B2B businesses and B2C businesses as well. One of which being MBS, who we have worked with them for as long as I've been here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with them. So we have quite a good insight into the sort of manufactured industry at the minute. We've tested lots and lots of different things with MBS, as well as other B2B businesses. So we've developed a really good understanding of how to use LinkedIn appropriately and properly. And we also have identified some really key areas whereby other agencies or other businesses maybe fall down. Today, I'm going to be running through the marketing funnel and why that's so important for LinkedIn, and some of the key sort of areas and how we can use LinkedIn at each stage of the funnel. So this is the marketing funnel. Now, I apologize if you are acutely aware of this and you've seen this 1,000,001 times. However, this for us is super, super important, especially when utilizing LinkedIn. It is essentially a funnel that starts at awareness and ends at loyalty, with two key areas in the middle, which is consideration and conversion. In manufacturing specifically, the buying journey is a very long process. Decision makers aren't just clicking on an ad and signing a deal or purchasing one of your products. They're evaluating trust, credibility, and expertise every step of the way. So a structured LinkedIn strategy allows us to guide these buyers, whoever they may be, through this funnel from awareness, hopefully down to loyalty. And it's really important. I'm going to come on to the next slide now, which just identifies one of the key mistakes that we often see with these customer journeys and these purchase journeys that are a bit longer. This isn't like you're buying a pair of trainers or a t-shirt or something that you can just on a whim purchase. These are very considered purchases and take potentially quite a long time. A lot of people in this industry focus way too much on the conversion section of the marketing funnel. They will essentially jump straight in and try to get people to purchase their products. This, although you might have some success, it's not going to be sustainable and it's not set up for long-term growth. We are really big here at Squidgy on taking a step back, looking at the funnel as a whole and the complete customer journey and all the different touch points that are involved in that, which is where we basically take into consideration other bits of the funnel as well. So awareness, this is where you are showing people who you are. These might be people who have never heard of you before, never considered purchasing from you before, but this is where you introduce your brand and your company. Consideration, this is basically about proving your value to these customers. So they've heard about you from your awareness pieces. They now are seriously considering purchasing from you. You're providing value at this stage. And then conversion, this is where everyone wants to be. This is making it easy for those warm customers who have become aware of you, have considered you, and are now ready to purchase and convert. Each touch point plays a critical role in building trust and in turn generating long-term success for your brand. Just going to move on to the next slide. So before we get into a bit more strategic and a bit more of the strategy involved in this, it's really important to understand what sort of tools you have at your disposal. So just on the slide here is a range of different types of adverts that you can use across LinkedIn. This isn't exhaustive. This is just my favorite ones and the ones that we found across our clients to be the most effective. You have everything from single image ads, which I'm very sure everyone watching this webinar has seen before. These are your standard sort of clean, impactful ads that are in your feed. These can also be videos as well, but these work similarly. We also have carousels. Now, again, most people probably have seen these, but these are really good for storytelling or case studies. They're basically scrollable cards that we can implement within LinkedIn. Document ads are slightly more advanced. People might not necessarily have seen these, but these are really good for sharing brochures or spec sheets or things like that you think provide real good value to your customers. Conversation ads next. These are essentially what InMail, or you might have heard of InMail. Conversation ads are a form of those. They are adverts that are delivered straight to your potential customer's inbox, which can be really helpful and really useful. And then lastly, lead gen ads as well. So these involve the customer filling in some form of lead gen form, giving you some details and you giving them something back in return. So starting at the top, as you would normally do. This is about brand awareness. So the top of the funnel is purely about brand awareness and getting people to know who you are as a brand. In manufacturing, credibility matters before buyers even reach out. So this is where we're aiming to reach them there. Brand awareness campaigns help you show up early so that when the need arises from the potential customer, your name's already in their head. You're already in the back of their mind. They are already aware of who you are. At this stage, we are often utilizing things like single images, videos, and potentially carousels that essentially just outline your brand. They are very sort of top level, sort of no hard call to actions. You're not telling anyone to do anything. You're just introducing your brand to these customers. These are potential customers that don't know who you are and need a little bit more information. So think things like factory tours, meet the team content, highlighting some of your products in a video. At this stage, we're not selling, we're just positioning ourselves within the market. As you can see on that laptop screen, that's just an example of a brand awareness piece that we've done for one of our other clients. As you can see, the call to action is just learn more. We're not asking anyone to book a demo or purchase anything at this point. We're just introducing the customer to the brand. Next of all, middle of the funnel, or the consideration stage, as it also is called. This is essentially where buyers are researching and comparing suppliers. Now, within the screen here, this is nothing to do with manufacturing. This is our own squidgy adverts. One key bit of this funnel that we found really effective for MBS and other B2B clients is the use of thought leadership and education as a route to value, essentially. Here, you want to position your brand as a partner rather than just a vendor. So what does this mean in practice? Essentially, we're looking to share helpful content, offer expert insights, and showcase your problem-solving ability. So whether it's through gated documents, whether it's through insightful carousels, whether it's through industry updates, all these things are really good at providing value to the customer. as you can see in that screenshot there in the laptop. We use this for It's Squidgy all the time. We often get the team here to write thought leadership pieces, as a lot of them are experts in their field. We then share them, whether that's through a company page like the one that's been shown there, or you can do it via the person's personal. So you can sponsor posts via people's personal LinkedIn profiles. That often works really well as well. This is basically just about demonstrating that you know what you're talking about. In the manufacturing industry, it's about demonstrating that you're the guys that people want to go to purchase. The next stage, or the next part that we found really helpful within the middle of the funnel, is lead generation. Now, again, in your laptop, you'll see our office dog, Reggie. He was a large part of one of our lead generation campaigns. Now, this is in manufacturing. So this is, once you've built some trust, it's time to offer value and start collecting leads. Now, at this stage in the middle of the funnel, it doesn't have to be about the hard sell. This is just about collecting information and data on potential customers further down the line, but providing them with something useful. So in manufacturing, hard sells often fall flat. But if you offer something genuinely useful, like a brochure or a spec sheet or a cost calculator, for example, people are often more willing to then give you them details. And as we know in this world, data is the king of all things at the minute. So that's where these lead gen forms come in handy and really shine. Our goal here at this stage, within the middle of the funnel, is to create a clear next step without any pressure, and to let sales teams that we can then pass the information on follow up with the now warm and engaged contacts. You are now far more likely to get a sale or convert these users after A, making them aware of who you are, and B, providing them with either thought leadership and education or something valuable via a lead gen campaign. These have worked really well for all of our clients that use them. They're brilliant. They're one of my favorite. Moving on to the bottom of the funnel. Now, this is obviously where most people start, and this is where they go wrong. However, it is obviously a very important part of the marketing funnel and the customer journey and our strategies when it comes to LinkedIn. So conversion campaigns. This is essentially where we're taking people who have been through the funnel, the prospects who know who you are, and they're basically ready to talk or ready to buy. Here, your job is essentially to make it as easy to convert as possible, whether that's a quote request or a demo booking or a direct inquiry, whatever it might be for your business. Here, we use things like retargeting. We use website conversion campaigns. We essentially want to direct people in the easiest, fastest fashion to the conversion page, whether that's on your website, whether it's on your LinkedIn, wherever it might be. In this instance, this is just Squidgy's contact form page that we would love people to convert on. This is essentially where warm traffic becomes real sort of pipeline users. Now, I've talked all about the different strategies and the different parts of the funnel, and that's all well and good. However, there's some real key considerations to take into account here. That's all well and good. But if you don't have any of these that are well done, then you're never going to have success. So now I could have done a full webinar on each of these three different things, but I'm just going to try and succinctly explain these. So audience and targeting. This is basically about making sure that you're reaching the right people, the decision makers that are in your target audience, making sure they have the right job title, making sure they're definitely in the right industry for you guys, making sure that they're the right seniority. They're not they're not an intern, they're not a student. They are these people who are making the decisions. This is about really layering in as many forms of audiences as you possibly can, whether that's using LinkedIn's job title function, job seniority function, or it's using your own data from your CRM or your website. It's really, really important to get your targeting spot on, because you can have the best strategy in the world and the best ads in the world, but if you're showing them to people who don't care, you're never going to have success. The next bit is about creative and messaging. So again, I'm sure everyone watching this has seen many, many terrible adverts in their time across all forms of social media. Now, it's really, really important to get this right. So these need to align with your customer. They need to be useful. They need to be engaging. They need to catch people's attention. They can't be too long. You know, nobody wants to watch a film as an advert. They need to be to the point but useful. It's always good to test multiple different creatives against each other within any sort of campaign. And then the last bit, which is the most boring and nerdy bit, is the technical and tracking. Again, everything we've mentioned is all well and good, but if you don't know if it's working or not, it's all a little bit pointless. You need to make sure that, for example, with LinkedIn, your insight tag is implemented properly. You're adhering to all the consent mode, cookie compliance issues that there is in the world in 2025. Make sure you've set up your conversions so that when people do things you want them, you know about it and you can measure it. Even things like using UTM parameters. So that's a fancy name for putting things on the end of your URLs to make sure that you know where they come from. It's all really important. It's all really sort of key in determining success from these campaigns that were mentioned previously. Getting these right up front gives your campaigns the best chance of success from day one. Moving on. So what does all this look like? What is everything I've spoken about today? What does it result in? Now, these two screenshots are from a couple of different clients of ours that use our LinkedIn services. The one on the left is the average month for one of our clients, which really, really nicely sort of outlines the funnel that we've created as a result of weeks and months of testing on different campaigns. As you can see, obviously the top of the funnel is the largest with the largest amount of impressions. That's how many people have seen the adverts. Then we move to clicks, which is obviously people who have then taken action and went onto your website or went onto your profile. And at the bottom there, conversions and leads. Now that's just a really nice way of demonstrating how all of this works and how all of this comes together. Similarly, in the other laptop screen there, it's just a different way of viewing it, but you can see from another client, 92, this is over a little longer period, but 92,000 people have seen, or from 92,000 companies, sorry, have seen our ads. As a result, 3,000 of those companies are in the consideration phase that's deemed by LinkedIn. And as a result of that, we've had 2,000 leads. This structured approach is scalable and sustainable, and that's what sort of modern manufacturing marketing should aim for, rather than just going straight to the bottom and trying to get people to convert. And that's me done. I've done my best to cram a lot in there. However, I know there might be a lot more questions. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn to me. I know I haven't put a fancy QR code on like Kat, but I've got quite a distinct name, Samuel, on LinkedIn. If you're interested in if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Likewise, if you're interested in anything that Squidgy offer, get in touch as well, and we'll get back to you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much to all our speakers. Lots of questions have come in, so I'm going to jump straight in and ask them now. Kat, I'm going to come first to you. So events are seen as costly. It's a fair question. Events are seen as costly. How do we get over this hurdle with internal stakeholders to get their buy-in?
It's a good question. It's one we get quite a lot. To be honest, it's about proving the return on investment. So I know we talked quite well. I covered a bit of that in the stuff that I was talking about, but it's really about understanding what's success for you, like what success looks like for your brand, your product. It's about understanding what success looks like for you and understanding the kind of return that you need to get from the customers that are there. So the investment that you put into an event, whether or not that be as an attendee or as a sponsor, should be equivalent to the return that you're looking for from the people that you're going to meet at that event. So for example, if you're going to put in a £10,000 sponsorship commitment to that event, how can you get that return? So is that going to be selling products? If it is, make sure you've got the right salespeople at your event, make sure you've got the right presence at the event, make sure your brand is represented well, make sure you get some time on stage. So I think for me, it's really about understanding what it is that you want to get from it. It's much like a lot of the stuff that Sam talked about as well. It's understanding your funnel and like, for example, again, you can put the best kind of sales pitch out there that you want, but if the audience aren't there to listen to that, they're not going to invest in your product or your service. So when you're looking for kind of internal commitment to like release the budget or whatever, just consider what you think the potential of that event is. And again, I would always push back to the event organizers, find out what the potential is. Like, don't just accept the standard package. See if there's something else that better responds to reflect your brand and the the things that you need it to actually respond to.
Brilliant, perfect. Okay, I want to come to you again. So how do you balance engagement with delegates without coming across as too pushy?
Not to sound like a broken record, but I think it's really about understanding your market. I mean, ultimately, let's face it, you could pretty much define this entire webinar about, understanding the needs of your market. But it's not allowing yourself to have that like really direct sales pushy approach. It's understanding what it is that they need and trying to respond to it in a way that you think might be more meaningful to them. So, for example, rather than just putting an advert out there or doing something that might just say like, buy this now at such and such a price, you might want to do it work for somebody before in the past. You might, instead of wanting to do like an actual direct sales pitch, you might want to do something that was like, I don't know, say for example, get a 20-second video on stage if you're attending a conference, and have that 20-second video doing a case study or an animated piece on some like cold hard stats that you found have worked in the past that might speak better to your audience. So I think it's being creative about your pushiness, to be honest. Nobody's saying not going in and making a direct sale. I think it's just finding a way that actually better speaks to your market.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Sam, I want to come to you then. So how effective is LinkedIn InMail for reaching specifiers directly?
Yes, so I mean, InMail is really good in a lot of ways and also has its limitations as well. So for reaching the sort of specifiers directly, especially in the manufacturing and construction industry, it's a really cheap way of getting eyes on that advert. I know we've done it with MBS. It's per send. It's a super cheap way of advertising. However, the downfall is the engagement from them isn't always amazing. People, it's a little bit intrusive, is essentially the way I would put it, which it can be. But it just means you've got to be really clever with the way you do it, and you've got to be really sort of engaging and grab people's attention with it. Big, massive, long bits of text, aren't going to cut it in an InMail. I'm sure yourselves and everyone listening to this webinar has had numerous different InMail ads over the years from LinkedIn. But it can be really useful. You can personalize it. You can have it address the person's name, using some code in the ad copy. So it can be really useful. It's about using it at the right time and for the right reason, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. It's really got to be value driven, because specifiers are busy people and they're not going to sit and read through reams and reams of content. If you've got something to tell them quickly and you're more likely to get a result. Yeah, definitely.
100%, yeah.
Right, brilliant. So we'll come to you, Kat. So what's the ideal timing and format for following up after an event?
It's a great question. Again, it depends massively on your market based on their kind of availability. But again, going back to that point where everybody just seems to be so busy. I think to give a real life example, I'm here on this webinar today from a hotel room because I'm at one of my industry events. We're out there meeting prospective venues where clients can host their events in the future. In their networking break, they followed up with me with a direct email to say, "Hi, Kat, thanks for your time today. I hope your cold gets better," because obviously I've got one of those real cagey voices right now. But it was personalized straight away. They've sent me the attachments that they promised me that they would do. They've tailored it to the questions that I asked them, and that was just their conversion from a 15 to 20-minute meeting. So I'm telling you about it as an example. So obviously it's been effective in reaching me. It's all very timely because we're doing this webinar right now as well. But I just find it's the personalization as well as the timeliness. So it's not giving people enough time to feel like forgotten about, and also to follow up on, I was obviously a keen person for them. So they saw that as an opportunity to get me the information as soon as possible, to know that they're in a competitive market and I'm not going to find somebody else later this afternoon that might better be able to host my event. So yeah, I think ask the person as well whenever you're actually in that meeting, for example, and you've got that real human moment with that interaction where you're trying to solve some issue for somebody that you're meeting at an event. Ask them what kind of follow-up they're expecting. Put a meeting in their diary then and there. So say, for example, let's pick this up again, set up a Teams or a Zoom call or something. A couple of weeks later, check their diaries and try and get that commitment down as quickly as possible. I don't think there's one like algorithm or any kind of like mathematical rule to say like within 24 hours, but harder salespeople, better salespeople than me would probably say that.
Cool. I want to a few questions have come in where you've already answered the question already. It was like, so Kat, how do you keep engagement high in a digital event format?
So I talk a lot about that kind of human interaction that you get from an event. That's not to say that you can't keep that human interaction whenever you actually attend like a webinar or a virtual event. And it's something that we've invested in a lot as a company as well, to try and keep that human engagement level up whenever you're actually kind of have the barrier of a screen, essentially. I think it's trying to harbor that human connection as much as you can. So interjecting virtual and digital events with having some kind of one-on-one networking. So allow for breakout rooms in there, allow for very kind of authentic type of presentation, allow for live Q&A, things that really keep the engagement level up in terms of asking live polls, things like that. I think during the COVID years, everybody was a little bit death by screen. You know, at the end of that, nobody really wanted to go back to virtual events, but they're absolutely still have a market. They help massively in terms of sustainability. I mean, we pretty much completely eradicate like delegate travel from doing virtuals. So they definitely still have their place, and it's also a good way to get quick learning outcomes and fit that within your day without having to, you know, allow for travel or cost of a hotel room or anything like that. So, so keeping them engagement is important because, as I say, there's still a market for them, and I think it's just again making it different from the rest. So making sure the learning outcomes are really good, and using your social media kind of before and after the event to offer things that maybe in-person events can't. So do real like strong campaigns on what the content's going to be, and follow up afterwards like nearly straight away because you've got that additional time to do so.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And Sam, I'm going to come to you. Are there any content formats that get more traction than others? So carousels, videos, PDFs, lives, etc.
Yeah, I mean, as a blanket rule, video tends to do the best. Now, that is a blanket rule, like I say. Each business, each campaign may have varying different results. However, as a rule of thumb, if you can afford to invest in video, I would. Um, However, that's not to say things like single images and carousels don't have a place, because they absolutely do. Um, However, as sort of the world's attention span shortens, people, you know, are leaning towards TikTok and Instagram Reels, and video is just a part of everyone's life now. So as a result of that, advertising has to move in that direction as well, and videos tend to do better. Now, that's like I say, it's a blanket rule. It's not to say that's the case for every single campaign, for every single business. It's always worth testing all of the different formats against each other, and you'll find out what works for you. But I would definitely say video is one to try, definitely.
Brilliant. And then the last question is again to you, Sam. So what are the benchmarks for engagement on LinkedIn in the construction/manufacturing space?
Yeah, so benchmarking is difficult with the wide sort of range of information out there. However, one thing with LinkedIn that you really need to remember and is to try and not compare against other platforms. So, for example, Meta, Google, you know, you're looking for about a 5% click-through rate, and that will be really good. Whereas on LinkedIn, due to the audiences and the way it works, you know, for things like a website traffic campaign within the manufacturing industry, you're probably looking at 1% would be really, really good. Now that sounds really low. However, it is, I promise you.
Thanks, Sam. Some really actionable stuff there. I just had to follow up with a few hints and tips of our own. So as you know, MBS has run a really successful events program for a number of years. We run around 35 to 40 prospect and customer events per year across our webinar program and conferences. So thought we'd share a little bit of what we've learned along the way to kind of join them together. First of all, Kat covered this really well. It's all about building anticipation. What's going to get people emotionally invested in attending? If you're going to a trade show, are you showing it or demoing a new product? Are there any clips around the office or factory to show what's coming? Or if you're hosting your own event, do you have a keynote speaker that would interest them? You could do a speaker reveal or short video clips of previous work they've done. Can you even get them to write about the event and attending the event and do a sponsored thought leadership campaign around to promote it? And the last thing you want to do is promote your event organically if it's going to attract people who don't really fit your ideal customer profile and aren't going to convert, because it's a waste of time and it's a waste of your budget. So think of how you can extend your reach in a targeted way so that you're only reaching the people you want to attend your event. And you can use LinkedIn's audience tools to help you do that by filtering by job title and seniority, industry, things like that. Next, it's create and capture the event with purpose. So don't just attend the event, document it, but with purpose. And what I mean by that is your team should be capturing the pictures and short videos and interviews, but they've got, what are you going to do with this stuff afterwards? So you can use pictures, short videos, interviews, talking heads, or even audience reactions that can be turned into content immediately on the day, but more importantly, can be used to support your post-event content. So just consider what you'll need to use the shots for. Will you need close-ups or wide-angle shots? Will they be used online or on a web page or for YouTube or Instagram, stories or reels? These decisions planned in advance will help you get the right content for the right channel and in the right format. So in live events, once a moment's passed, that is absolutely it. We won't get it back. Okay, so post-event, that's where you nurture the relationships you've just made. So segmentation is really, really key. The temptation is to sit meetings immediately after events, particularly if it's cost a lot to be there. But architects and specifiers are really busy people. And if you go too hard too soon, it's likely going to have a negative effect rather than a positive one, and it'll put them off. So by all means, start by sending your thank you messages to all attendees and personalize them when you can. Just as Kat said, it makes a real impact. But then segment your leads into audience pots, such as hot leads, middle of the funnel, and early stage contacts. So for early stage, they'll need really light touch content that's informative, educates you about the brand, but doesn't really demand an action, but anything beyond visiting a link to your site to find out more. Middle of the funnel though, the goal is to engage a bit more. So you could send them if you've got downloads or data sheets, or you want to send them to source or whatever that is. You want them to really engage in that post-event activity to then keep them warm, but drive an action. And then for your hot leads, goes without saying, you can be much more direct. So ads can have a much stronger call to action. That's where you want to really secure the meeting. But remarketing here is what really makes the strategy work. So keep remarketing to these audience pots. It's not a one and done kind of campaign. You can keep remarketing and keep serving them content until they're ready to convert. And you can keep nurturing these leads with low effort. So when an early stage campaign's finished, move them to the middle of the funnel pot and send them on that journey. And then when that's done, you can move them into the hot leads and start pushing them for a bit more interaction and hopefully secure that meeting. Next, so the content is really the glue that holds it all together, and that's never a truer statement. So your event is a content machine, and planned properly, you can even make up to a year's worth of content or even evergreen content and extend the value and ROI of the event. So go into the event with a solid content plan. Do your research so you know what to capture and when and for what purpose. Think beyond the event too. How can the event generate fresh testimonials, case studies, webinars, sound bites, reels, demos, social content, blog posts or knowledge articles, press opportunities, and even like show reels. So if you want to do that event again, capture the event so you can market the event next year. It'll all give you a leg up in your campaigns. We know events can be expensive, particularly when they're in person, so get as much as value as you possibly can. FAQs in particular are my favorite research tool, particularly for generating long form content. So capture the questions people are asking you and create an article around it or a blog post, whatever suits best. And then you can use these as thought leadership content afterwards. And this is really, on paid LinkedIn, for example, this is a really cheap way to get your content out to the right people. If you do need help writing a content plan, in episode 2 of the Marketing Masterclass, we shared a free template. If that's something you need, it's available on demand for free now. Just sign up and you'll be able to download the toolkit there. And the final point to mention around this really is it's not a one-person job. So you can't be in all places at all times capturing all things. It just can't be done. So work as a team. If you're a one-man person, can your sales team help you deliver the content? have someone in a dedicated role to capture everything that in your content plan that you've set out that you want to grab, but always have another person to just walk the event and capture the things that are unexpected. The main takeaway is the most engaging content often isn't in the plan, it's in the moment. At CELS last year, our most successful post wasn't actually part of the content plan at all. It was the arrival of a very famous and recognisable dog, courtesy one of our event sponsors, and it completely stole the show. So the person assigned to the ad hoc moments and to walk in the event got this moment, and it turned out it was the moment of the day. So yeah, definitely have that person. So let's talk the elephant in the room, ROI. So to prove ROI, we're going to need to measure the full journey. So that's from pre to post event. So how many people saw your event promo on social? How many visited your stand on your event? Did they convert later from retargeting? Use link tracking, things like that across all channels to help you demonstrate your impact. And it all helps you secure your budget for the next time. The more you capture and prove, the more you can plan in for next year if it's a success. And set a realistic timeline too. So unless you're processing sales on the day with a credit card, it's likely to be a longer lead time from first touch to last. So check back on your campaigns every month for however long your sales cycle is and assess the trend. I've dropped a couple of final takeaways here. The main is that yes, the event landscape's changed in the last 5 years, but events aren't dead. And social isn't just all about fluff and content on the day. It's much bigger. So together, they complement each other really well and drive a powerful lead machine for you. So plan early, capture as much content as possible, and measure the entire journey together under the one campaign for a real true reflection of your ROI. And before I wrap up, I want to quickly share something exclusive for our attendees. So each masterclass in the series comes with its own toolkit. It's got loads of recommendations, tools, templates, and resources, etc. And we'll send you a link to the toolkit straight to your inbox along with the recording. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And that's it from us. So a huge thanks again to Kat and Sam and to all of you for joining and sending your questions. Anything we didn't get to, we'll follow up after the session with recording and a digital toolkit. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.